Hi everybody and welcome to Rocco Baby Crochet. I hope you're all well and having a great week. Today we've got a quick stitch tutorial for the beautiful feather stitch. This is one of those stitches that probably looks a little bit more complicated than it is. Once you get going with it, it is fairly easy. It's a 1 row repeat, it's a reversible stitch and it's great for making things like blankets, but it's also quite a thick, dense fabric that's made, so it's great if you wanted to make some chunky ear warmers or cup cozies, things like that. It works perfectly for. It's a stitch that works up really quickly and I never want to stop it when I've started it, so I've done well keeping this sample so small today. I'll leave links to the yarn that I've used and the crochet hooks in the description of this video. There's also links to my blog where you'll find all my free written patterns over there. If you've not already subscribed to the channel but you don't want to miss out on my next tutorial or free pattern, then please don't forget to hit subscribe and the bell notification. It would really help me as well because I'm on a little mission and I've got a goal this next 12 months of reaching 10,000 subscribers, so if you could help me achieve that goal and help me along on my journey, I'd really appreciate that too. So grab your hook, grab your yarn, grab a cuppa and let's learn the beautiful feather stitch together. To begin working the feather stitch, you're going to want to make a slip knot in your preferred method and pop that onto your hook. The foundation chain for the feather stitch needs to be an even number of chains, so I'm just going to do a small sample here and I'm going to chain 18. You'll want to chain until you reach the width of the project that you want, as long as it's an even number. So you'll yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through. If you want to press pause while you go ahead and make your foundation chain and come back to me when you're ready to move up to row 1. I'm ready to move up to row 1 now and I've got a foundation chain of 18. So it's completely up to you whether you work row 1 into the front of your foundation chain, which is probably a little bit more traditional, or if like me you prefer to work into the back bumps, then go ahead and turn your foundation chain over. What we'll want to do in the second chain from the hook is place a half treble crochet. So you'll yarn over, insert your hook into the second chain from hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. You'll then move into your next chain and place another half treble crochet, and we're going to place 1 half treble crochet in every chain along for the whole of row 1. So I skipped a stitch at the beginning, which means that my stitch count at the end of row 1 will be 17. Your stitch count will be 1 less than the number of chains that you chain to make your foundation chain. So if you want to press pause while you work your way across, placing 1 half treble crochet in every chain across and come back to me when you're ready to move up to row 2. I've just finished row 1 and at the end of row 1 your work should be looking a little bit like this. To move up to row 2 and every row in the feather stitch, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. This chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch here or throughout the pattern, and what we're going to do is place a half treble crochet in this very first stitch here that our chain 1 is coming out of. So we'll yarn over, insert our hook into the top of that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook, and then we're going to chain 1, skip a stitch and into the next stitch place another half treble crochet, chain 1 again, skip a stitch and place a half treble crochet into the next stitch along, and we'll do that all the way across for row 2, chaining 1, skipping a stitch and placing a half treble crochet into the next stitch along. So if you want to press pause and make your way across and come back to me when you're ready to move up to row 3. I've just finished row 2 and at the end of row 2 your work should be looking a little bit like this. To move up to row 3 we're going to chain 1 and turn, and this is the start of our row repeat now, so this is where we're going to start making the feather stitch, and we're going to begin by placing a half treble crochet into this very first stitch here. And then you'll chain 1. Now where we're going to insert our hook to create the feather stitch is we're going to place it into this space here, into this chain 1 space. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into this skip stitch here 2 rows below. So in this case it's the skip stitch in row 1, and then we're going to be moving across to our next chain 1 space, so into this one. So our hook is going to be going here, here and here. So let's work that first feather stitch together. So to begin, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into that first chain 1 space, yarn over and pull up a loop. And you want to make sure that the loops that you're pulling up are the same height as this first half treble crochet here. And then you're going to yarn over again, insert your hook into this skip stitch here from row 1 and pull up a loop. So that'll be the tallest loop that you're pulling up. And then we're going to move across over into our next chain 1 space, yarn over, insert our hook and pull up a loop. At this point you'll have 7 loops all together on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 7 of those loops and then chain 1. That's our first feather stitch placed, and where we're going to start our next feather stitch is we're going to begin it here where we've just finished the last feather stitch off. We'll drop down to this skip stitch here in row 1 and finish it off in this chain 1 space. So let's work that one together. So yarn over, insert your hook into the chain 1 space that you've just placed the last leg of your last feather stitch in, pulling up a nice long loop. Yarning over, dropping down to the skipped half treble crochet in row 1 and pulling up a nice tall loop, and then yarning over, insert into your next chain 1 space and pull up another loop. 7 loops all together on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 7 loops and chain 1. So one last time we'll work this feather stitch together. We're going to insert our hook here into the chain 1 space, then drop down to our missed half treble crochet in row 1 and then across to our chain space here. So we'll yarn over, insert our hook and pull up a loop, yarn over, drop down 2 rows into that skip stitch, yarn over and pull up a tall loop, yarn over and move across to our next chain 1 space and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 7 loops on your hook and chain 1. You're going to repeat that all the way across for row 3, and like I said earlier, this is a 1 row repeat, and this is your row that you're going to repeat over and over and over until your project gets to the height that you want it to be at. So I just want to show you our hook placement when we get to row 4, and I'm nearly at the end of row 3 now, but if you want to pause the video while you work your way across row 3, placing the feather stitch just as I've shown you, come back to me when you're ready to move up to row 4 and we'll take a little look at the hook placement for row 4. So I've just worked my last feather stitch of this row, and the last one, this chain 1 space, it only gets that last leg of the feather stitch in it. You don't put anything else into that stitch. When you reach this point, all you'll do is you'll simply chain 1, which I'd already done, and then you're going to place a half treble crochet into the very last stitch. Now it is easier if you just rotate your work towards you slightly and you'll be able to see the top of that stitch. So you'll be able to see that V, which is the top of our last stitch. Yarn over, insert your hook and place your very last half treble crochet for row 3. Chain 1 and turn. So hopefully yours is looking a little bit like this now. It's a really beautiful stitch. Don't worry about these holes. Our first feather stitch of this next row will take care of those for us. So once you've chained 1, we're going to begin again. We're still repeating the exact method that we did in row 3, just the hook placement is slightly different. So into that first stitch there, you'll place your first half treble crochet and chain 1. So where we're placing our hook is we're going to go into this chain 1 space here, then we'll drop down into this gap, and then we'll move across to our chain space here in between our next 2 feather stitches. So let's work this feather stitch together. So we're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that chain 1 space and pull up a loop, yarn over, drop down 2 rows, insert your hook and pull up a tall loop, yarn over and move across into your next chain 1 space and pull up a loop. You'll have 7 loops on your hook at this point, yarn over and pull through all 7 loops and chain 1, and we'll repeat that all the way across, and you should be able to see that you've got these gaps here in your work. Row 3 we worked into skip stitches. For remaining rows we're going to be working into these gaps here, so it's really easy to see where you're placing your hook. So you're inserting your hook back into that same chain space that you've just placed the last leg of your previous feather stitch, pulling up a loop, then you'll drop down into the gap 2 rows below and pull up a tall loop, and then you'll move across to your next chain space and pull up a loop. 7 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 7 and chain 1, and you'll just repeat that all the way across for row 4 for as many rows as you like until your project is the size that you want it to be at. So it's a really super simple stitch this. It does look a lot more complicated than it actually is. I have lots of fun with it. I tend to find that when I start it I don't want to finish it because it's just it's a bit of a rhythmic stitch that you get into this rhythm of it, and it's just works up so quickly and looks so beautiful that I always just want to continue working it once I've begun. If you have got any questions about the beautiful feather stitch, then drop me a comment in the comment box below. I'll try my best to answer it, or let me know what you're going to use this stitch for. I'd love to hear the ways that you're planning on using it. Please don't forget, if you've not already subscribed to the channel and you don't want to miss out on my next free pattern or tutorial, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and it would also really help me on my journey to reaching 10,000 subscribers. I'd really appreciate your support on that. But I hope you have lots of fun practicing this stitch. Have a great week and I'll see you real soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!